This is going to be Charles Johnson against Rafael Estevam. Now, Charles Johnson, energy, obviously, he is 13-5 right now. He is 2-3 in his last five. He's coming off of that decision loss to Cody Durden, 32 years old. He's fighting against Rafael here, 11-0, 5-0 in his last five. He's coming off of that ground and pound victory on the Contender Series. 27 years old, so he's going to be the younger fighter here as well. And odds for this fight, just to let you guys know, Rafael opened up at a minus 251. He actually got bet to an underdog at plus 110 for about a week or so, about a couple of weeks, and now he is settled back to minus 130. So that's a really interesting line movement there. Um, I've actually broken down Charles a lot over the last couple of years. He's been pretty active, so it's been pretty easy to break down some of his tape. Charles Johnson, I mean, I think that he's a active striker. He likes to rely on his technique, if you will, as far as boxing. He also incorporates some kickboxing in there as well. And I think that he also tries to push on the pace to really get out decision victory most of the time. He does have some KOs on his record, but the KOs have usually come on later in the fights, like round three, sometimes, or if he's fighting a round 5 round fight, like round four. 38% of his wins have come by KO. And outside of a quick KO of a washed Jimmy Flick, though, he really has been more of a point decision kind of fighter. He does not have the best takedown defense, as seen with his last fight. I think he was taken down like 10 times or so, 11 times against Cody Durden. But he does have a decent get up game. He can get back up and survive grappling exchanges. He has never been subbed, so that's a benefit for his style as well. He's never been subbed, and he's fought some absolute sub killers like Muhammad Mokaev, who took him down 12 times and didn't get the sub going. So very interesting skill set that he does have. He does have a tendency to get controlled for the majority of 15 minutes. So that's something to take a note of. Cody Durden was constantly wrestling him for 15 minutes and just controlled him pretty much for the whole fight. I think Cody Durden had like 9 minutes or 9 minutes and a half of just control time. And I think that might be an issue in this fight just because Rafael is a high pressure fighter. He's an in your face wrestler who likes to throw at power, likes to set up his takedowns with this wild kind of style. He will commit to his pressure and power to drag you down to the ground. So he really likes to use his trips or just straight up use his brute strength and drag you down to the ground rather than doing the standard single legs or double legs, right? When he does get you to the ground, he has pretty good ground and pound as well. So that's I think that just the ground pound aspect and also having good control, just backpacking people sometimes. I think he's also pretty dangerous when he gets you down to the ground because he does hunt for subs. I'm leaning towards Rafael here. I mean, I think that Charles Johnson, he just hasn't really rubbed me the right way in most of his fights. He doesn't make people pay for shooting takedowns because people have just shot for takedowns a lot from this guy, and it just seems like they keep on shooting takedowns at will on him. And I think that he has a bad sense of urgency as well. My last straw for Charles Johnson was when he fought Ode Osborne. I mean, I think I was on the Charles Johnson side, and then I maybe like the day of the fight I flipped to Ode Osborne. But yeah, he just didn't have that killer instinct to win the fight, and I think that's something that you need to have, especially in the UFC. You need to have that will and desire and that sense of urgency to actually win the fight. So because of that, I'm going with Rafael by decision here. I'm probably going to look to attack that prop when it drops, and that'll be my pick for the fight here. Gerard, what's your thoughts on this fight between Charles Johnson and Rafael here?
Charles Johnson is, I think he came up with a base of wrestling, so that makes sense why his takedown, I mean, his get up game is so good.
Mhm.
Um, he kind of reminds me of Bobby Green, who started off as a wrestler but fell in love with their striking, and he kind of has that slick striking type of style, like a Bobby Green. And Yeah, he has quick reaction time from what I see. And Rafael Estevam, in terms of his pressure and his grappling, I'm not exactly sold on Estevam as much. I think I'm not sure if he's fought anybody like who has a slick type of striking style like a Charles Johnson here. And yeah, I'm also not sold on his takedown so much as well because his last fight against Elias kind of invited him to take him down, basically going for a submission and then getting on his back, and then Esteban was just on top controlling positions. So I couldn't really see too much of things that I could see Charles Johnson have trouble with because Charles Johnson has gone up against a Cody Durden and some other grapplers, and I'm not so sure Esteban is better than those guys. So if Charles Johnson is dog odds, I'll probably play Charles Johnson. I just think he has more experience, and I'm not sure of Rafael Esteban's striking skill. So I'm gonna lean on Charles Johnson. Low confidence. I think the energy might be coming out to get a bounce back win. I think he's due a win here. So I'll go with the more experienced Charles Johnson here.
For sure, yeah. And right now, like I mentioned earlier, Charles Johnson, he's actually at plus 110 right now. So could be pretty decent time to attack on those odds. He is dog odds, so yeah, could be good value if you're choosing that side.